Hello, my name is James Gullivo. I'm the President and CEO of Viking, and today I've been asked to go through some of the innovations and the technology that we're bringing to the table. And I thought I would be a good representative to run you through an example of what we're talking about. The valve selector, the system configurator, as we call it on our website, is a technology where it breaks down our industry into simple terms. And if you're ever put together a valve, especially a complicated valve such as deluge, double interlock, or something along those lines, there's a lot of parts and pieces that go to make it a whole valve. And getting it correct, getting all the right components, getting all the right part numbers is a difficult task. And my history, starting off as a design trainee, I spent a lot of time reading data sheets, trying to figure out how all the components bolted together so that I could understand and explain if the field ever called me to how it would activate, how to reset a valve, or how to troubleshoot a valve. And if you've done that through just data sheets, you find 4 or 5 data sheets to each valve selection that you make, then you got to put them together in your mind of how it's going to look in the field. And what we've done is we've simplified that with the system configurator, or the valve selector, as we call it in some of the apps. I'm going to run you through some of the a couple of examples, and hope I can do that for you and show you how we've simplified the task of doing this. I'm going to open up our website here and go to training and go down to Virtual Viking. And once I'm in the Virtual Viking, I'm going to go to Web Tools and System Configurator. It's as simple as it is, and it's available to everybody. And then you see an interactive valve and system configurator. And we'll go ahead and get started here. It's this simple. And it's going to ask me, what do you want to put together? A dry valve, a deluge valve, preaction, or a wet valve? Let's just take a simple example of a deluge valve. We'll just do a straight out deluge valve, and it says, do I want a Model F straight through or a Model E angle style? So depending on your configuration and the room that you have for the design considerations of the riser, I'm going to pick the angle style, just as an example, the Model E. I'm going to start configuring. So it puts together the concept of a Model E, and it says, do you want standard coating or Halar coating? For specialty devices, I'm going to pick just standard. And you can see it starts to put the valve together. I can move it around. I can see what the trim looks like. I can explain it to somebody, but this is the basic configuration of a deluge valve. Now, I haven't picked a lot of different operating components, but I'm going to go through that in the next couple of screens. So next I need to tell it what the connection types are. Is it thread-thread? Is it flange-flange? Is it flange-groove? We can go through a couple of different configurations, but I'm going to say it's flange-groove. So I select flange-groove, as you can see here. We're going to do a 6-inch valve because this is a good-sized valve application. I go to the trim configuration. Now, do I want brass? You can see the trim change on the drawing over to a brass configuration, so it looks like it's going to look in the field. Stainless steel, or simply galvanized. So I'm going to go with galvanized just because this is a standard valve that we're putting in. And I go to the ordering options. The ordering options is, do I want a trim pack where we put the package of trim together in a panel? Loose trim, where you just put all the pieces and parts together in accordance with the specifications, or modular trim, where we put together components of the trim and then you put that together in the field. So I'll say modular. It won't change the drawing because the system configuration will be the same. But the next question is, do I want domestic trim or not? Viking prides itself in many of our valves and our existing legacy line that many of them meet the specifications of made in the USA. So we're very specific about it. You can talk to our technical services about our sourcing. We're going to be giving more information relative to compliance. But if it was yes to domestic trim, then we'll make sure that all the trim configurations meet the the domestic trim criteria. For this example, I'll just say no, and I'll go to the release options. Now, this is a simple deluge valve, and I have a choice between a pneumatic release, and if I pick pneumatic, you can see that I added the components of the pneumatic release. If I pick electric release, then it's simply the solenoid valve, but also the trim components that go with that solenoid valve. So simple pneumatic or electric. Now this isn't a deluge, this isn't a pre-action valve, so it's simply a deluge, so I just have to pick one or the other. I'll stick with electric for now, and I go to the add-ons. Now, and this is where a lot of ordering errors occur of, did I need a pressure switch? Do I want a pressure switch? Which panel do I want? Do I need a alarm bell? But this reminds you to go through these configurations. Yes, I do need an alarm bell, so that's going to be included with the order. Because not only are we compiling a drawing of this valve configuration, but we're also putting together an order. So the order will go to customer service and give you a complete package of this valve. Now the PS10, obviously a monitoring pressure switch. I can continue down and pick the Potter VFR 400 release control, because I'm going to know I'm going to need a control release for this deluge system. So that'll give me the right panel for the right valve application. In addition to that, I can go to a water motor gong, and you can see that it's changing the configuration of the trim to allow for the water motor gong. But I'm not going to use a water motor. I want to go back up and use the electric bell, so I'll switch it back to the electric. Then I go to the, so now I've configured everything. I've got my pressure switch, I've got my electric bell, I've got my panel, I've got a complete deluge valve. So I go to the final summary. Now once you pre-fill this in, it defaults, so I've got my name, my email address. I can send this with all the part numbers, the valve size, the galvanized steel for trim material, all the criteria that customer service needs to know, and the part numbers that go with that particular valve configuration. And that's the most important part, is getting the right part number so that you get a 6-inch trim with a 6-inch valve, that you don't get a 4-inch trim or something else, that you get the right components. And then the add-ons, the PS10, the control panel, and so on and so on. I can submit this to customer service directly. I can email it to myself so I can review it. But one of the coolest functions that I love about this is the technical data. So these are all the data sheets that configure this valve the way that we put it together. And I can download it into a merged zip file. So I take all these data sheets and information about the different components that I put together, and I download it into a merged technical submittal. It takes just a minute to go through, but you'll see it downloading onto the screen here. And I can open up this valve summary, and I can scroll through all of the data sheets that make this particular valve configuration. So it's a merged zip file of all the correct information for this particular valve. And it's just incredible that it can put all this information together in such a simple way in the little amount of time that we were working with this valve. Also a drawing. This is what the drawing's going to look like. It came from the configurator. So you can print that, you can copy it over to the drawing, you can send it out to the field. It gives you a copy of the part numbers that went into it. But this is the submittal package as well. So you get all of the submittals correct relative to the valve that you selected. So I'll reset the configuration and show you just another quick example of a pre-action valve. And this time we'll pick pre-action, and we'll pick a straight through this time. Start configuring. This is as simple as it is. Again, it's asking me, do I want a standard valve or a Halar coated? I'll go standard. And next I go to the, and again, here's the standard deluge configuration so far. I haven't made it pre-action because I haven't picked an operation means yet. But do I want thread, flange, or do I want flange groove. I'm going to go with groove on this one, just because that's what I want to do. I'll go 4-inch, because it's going to be a pre-action system. Well, let's go 2.5. So you can see that the valve size changes relative to each size that I pick here. So 2.5. This will be a double interlock that I'm putting in a data center, for an example. The next trim material, because this one's going in a data center, I want to use stainless steel, or do I want to use brass? I'm going to use brass on this one. And it's going to ask me, do I want a horizontal trim or do I want a vertical trim? So I'm going to go with a vertical trim, just because I'm going to put it in a small closet. Go next again to the trim configuration. I'm going to go with loose trim on this one. Again, it won't change the drawings because they'll come in parts and pieces. No to the domestic. And then I go to the release options. Now here's where it makes the valve. Do I want a single interlock pneumatic, single interlock release electric, double interlock pneumatic, double interlock electric pneumatic? So I'm kind of a fan of the double interlock electric pneumatic, and you can see that it's put all the trim components and where they attach to this particular valve. I could go electric pneumatic, where it's a double interlock, but it's both controlled by air. But I'm going to go with the electric pneumatic. Moving on, I get into my applications for my order. Do I want the check valve? Yes, I want to include the check valve. Do I want a electric alarm valve? Yes, I'm going to need that, so I'm going to order it. The E1 accelerator, am I going to need an accelerator to enhance the sensitivity of the valve so that I get a better delivery time on the water? You can see how it changes the where the accelerator is located. So it's there. I like accelerators, so I'm going to leave it in there. The D2 air maintenance device, again, showing you where it goes, how it's installed. And all of this converts into a drawing that you can copy and send to the field so they can see different configurations of it. And again, we're going to talk about, you've got your air pressure, your PS10, you got your PS40, where they go and how they install on the trim configurations. So this is for a data center, so I'm going to go with both the PS10 and the PS40. And again, it'll create the order for this as well. Of course, I'm going to need a release control panel, so it just shows it on the wall. And if I went with water motor gong, it would replace the electric, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with the electric, and now I have to go back up and select that again. So I'll select the electric bell. So that makes my complete configuration. Again, I go to the final summary, defaults to the information that I put in last time. Gives me all the part numbers, all the pieces, the configuration that the customer service. I can submit this to customer service as a purchase order. I can email it to myself so that I can put it on my own form if that's what I want to do. But again, the important part is that we're going to get all the correct part numbers in this for the customer service, that you get everything that you intend to for that valve. Go to my favorite part, go to the technical data. Again, all the data sheets that are going to be put together, I can download it into a merged zip file. So, when I got into this industry, and I have to say, I used Viking valves because it was about the only data sheet I could read in the 80s that I understood the operation of the valve. And this helps put it together where you understand how the components go together. And it makes it simple. So again, it ties into a legacy of Viking of making it simple. And what we're trying to do is make the ordering, get you the right components, get them on the job properly. And by doing this system configurator or the valve selector, you're going to get all the components that you need on time in the right way at the job site. So I'm really proud of the team for putting this together. I wanted to show it to you. I'm sort of bragging about it, but I'm happy to brag about it. And you're going to see some new valves coming in from Viking that are going to, be enhanced by this with different options, different configurations of valves. So we'll be introducing some new lines coming up soon that will tie into this program as well. So very excited about the system configurator or the valve selector. Try it out. Just run through a couple of examples, and if you have any questions, please give us a call. Thank you.